Offensive production in college football this week was a little bit down for the draft prospects. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. We have made it to Wednesday, so we are waiting for our week of football to get started. Get started tomorrow night. Feels like it's a ways away, but it'll be here soon. So in the meantime, while we're processing whatever we think is going to happen in week 3, let's process what happened in college football last week. And you guys know the drill. Our focus is looking at players that are intriguing for draft purposes. And we're only looking at a certain set of positions, but we're looking at a lot of them. And these are going to be offensive guys in this video. A couple hours from now, I'll do the defensive guys, so check out both videos. And yeah, let's go ahead and have a look at it. I said in the intro that it was a little bit down this week. So much so that we're actually going to talk about one guy who will not be entering this draft. He literally can't, just to fill the air here. But it wasn't quite what we saw the first 2 weeks. Simply put, we had bye weeks, right? Ohio State didn't play, Penn State didn't play, so you lose a lot of the players that you might have been able to talk about otherwise. Excuse me. So just talking about the players that we can talk about, you can immediately see that we're a little bit, it's not so great, right? Like, you got Jalen Milroe, who did have a good week for Alabama. He threw 17 passes. You know, he had a very easy job this week. Alabama won in a blowout. 12 for 17, 196 yards, not even 200 yards. But he hits 3 touchdowns, and then he runs for another 2, runs for 75 yards. And Alabama cruises to the easy win. And this week, that made you one of the standout performers. 81.4 PFF grade. But I'm not seeing much with Jalen Milroe that has swayed me. I still see a guy who I don't know is an NFL quarterback or not. Cam Ward, he continues to stand out. I mean, he had a phenomenal game for the Hurricanes. 19-28, 346 yards, 5 touchdown passes. I don't think he took a single sack, and Miami continues to roll. Now, that's a bad team, but I'm seeing more pro-like skills and pro-like abilities with Cam Ward than Jalen Milroe by a long shot, even if Cam Ward doesn't have the prototype skill set that you're necessarily looking for. I still like what I see. 90.6 PFF grade. Jackson Dart put up the big numbers, but honestly, that Ole Miss offense, he's probably always going to put up big numbers, so I don't even know how much to celebrate. Certainly a standout performer this week, 26 of 34, 377 yards, 2 touchdowns, ran for 35 yards and another touchdown, so he accounted for 400 yards of offense, 1 interception, 74.5. I don't get the NFL quarterback feeling off of Jackson Dart, but there's something fun there at least. And by the end of the year, he probably will be part of the conversation. And then you got Shedeur, who, I mean, he only made this list, honestly, because it was a weaker week for quarterbacks. In a stronger week, I don't think we have him here because I didn't like what I saw from him in the first half. I thought the first half, the things that the naysayers say about Shedeur Sanders all kind of bore out. But that second half was great. And it's a pretty stat line, right? 36 of 49 for 310 yards, 4 touchdowns, 90.1 PFF grade. Like, yeah, it looks nice, but that first half, man, the haters looked right for a half. So I'm looking at Shedeur Sanders, and I was a fan of his after last year, but so far this season, he's played 12 quarters, 6 have been great, but 6 have been bad. I don't know anymore. I don't know. This is why I say what I say about Geno sometimes. I don't really like these quarterbacks in this upcoming class. Cam Ward may end up being my favorite, and Cam Ward is not some prototype quarterback prospect that you're supposed to take in the top 5. Or probably even the top 20 if we're being real. He just doesn't have that skill set. Last guy is the guy who's not even eligible for the draft, but I did want to talk about this because he played really well. He didn't even play most of the game. Like, Quinn Ewers actually was playing pretty well before he got hurt. Arch Manning threw 12 passes, 223 yards, 4 touchdowns, ran for like a 68-yard touchdown, 88.6 PFF grade. Like, it is special, man. That stuff is special. What's going on with Arch Manning right now, he is going to be obscenely good. And I think we all have to face reality here. He's going to be the number 1 overall pick whenever he comes out. So we've talked about Arch Manning on this channel for years. We've been excited about Arch Manning for a while. But understand that you better be ready to be atrocious to get Arch Manning. Or, I guess you need to hope that the team that can get Arch Manning is like the Panthers, and Arch isn't going to go there. There's no way. The Manning family will come together to make sure Arch doesn't have to go to Carolina if it comes to it. So I guess that could happen, right? But Arch Manning is a shoo-in for the number 1 overall pick whenever he chooses to declare. We have something very special here, and I wanted to shout it out even if it won't be this year. Wide receivers, we had a slew of good games. There was nothing incredible this week, honestly. McMillan for Arizona. I mean, he's always going to be putting up numbers like this pretty much. 11 catches, 14 targets, 138 yards, so that's 10 yards a target. 84.6, but Arizona's offense was actually bad in this game, so it didn't result in much. Isaiah Bond for Texas, the recipient of some of Arch Manning's throws. 5 catches, 5 targets, 103 yards, incredible efficiency, 2 touchdowns, 79.5. Liking what I see from him. It feels like it's the usual suspects for receiver every week, don't it? Trey Harris of Mississippi, Ole Miss, 12 targets, 10 catches, 94 yards, 72.6, pretty good. Luther Burden, 6 catches for 117 yards, 8 targets, so that's what, pushing up to 15 yards a target, 1 touchdown. He did have a fumble, didn't lose it, 70.1. And then you have Tez Johnson. Feels like he's going to be here every week. Tez Johnson always seems to bring it. 7 catches, 9 targets, 110 yards. Fumble. He actually fumbled too. Didn't lose it either. 75.6. So, wide receivers, there's nothing here that blows you away. But it's a pretty good collection of players, right? Bunch of guys went over 100 yards. Trey Harris had 10 catches. Pretty good. Tight ends this week were rough. I couldn't find any meaningful big tight end games this week. I couldn't. It was tough. So I found 3 guys who were okay, and we're just going to roll with it. Terrence Ferguson of Oregon, 3 catches, 3 targets, 45 yards, pretty decent, 70.3. Bryson Nesbitt of the Tar Heels, 3 catches for 42 yards, 4 targets, 80 PFF grade. And then Jalen Conyers, who I think was an Arizona State guy last year. Now he's on Texas Tech. 4 catches, 4 targets, 36 yards, got in the end zone, 75.3. All these guys seem to block fairly cleanly as well, so it's good, right? It's pretty good, but Jalen Conyers being your arguable top performer of the week at tight end tells you that it's not much of a class, and it didn't have much of a week. Previous weeks were much better. Happens. Left guard. Okay, let's move on over to left guard here. The big dogs are still not really putting themselves out there in a really notable way, like the guys like the Tyler Booker of Alabama. It hasn't really been that great yet. So I had to dig a little bit deeper to find 3 guys at left guard. We got Michael Ford Jr., the Kansas guy. Kansas had a really good game offensively, running the ball. Didn't necessarily cash it into points, but Michael Ford Jr. at left guard, 0 pressures allowed, about 200 rushing yards, 5.7 yards a carry. 73.7 PFF grade. He's going to start creeping up these boards, I think. He actually plays it. He plays left guard. He's not a tackle who might move into left guard. Dylan Fairchild, feels like every week you can just look at the Georgia offensive line and say, yeah, those guys, give me those guys. And honestly, Georgia's offense had big problems in this game, but Dylan Fairchild played well. No pressures allowed. 102 rushing yards, which for Georgia is disappointing. 13 points scored. 76.3 PFF grade, clean. Garrett Dellinger of LSU, didn't allow any pressures. LSU ran the ball for a little over 4 yards a carry, 132 total. 36 points in that very tight win, 71 PFF grade. So those are the guys who stands out to me. Those are not the guys that are supposed to be the big dogs right now. So we got work to do. Got work to do with that left guard spot for this class. Center, again, I kind of had a little bit of a hard time. Only 2 guys I could find were Bryce Foster of Kansas again, so He's part of that great rushing attack they had. 79.3 PFF grade. He didn't allow any pressures either. And then you had Jared Wilson of Georgia. Same deal with him. Didn't allow any pressures. 79.1 PFF grade. So he's grinding it out. And then you have right tackle, where, again, the top of the line guys, it's just kind of, there's not much to say. Like a Johnny Cornelius over in Oregon, he allowed 2 pressures. As a right tackle, I'm going to be a little more forgiving of that, especially when Oregon runs the ball for 240 yards, 7.5 yards a carry. Not against, Washika Valley State or something like that. They're playing a real team. And I know Oregon State may not be great this year, but they're a real team. They're legitimate. They belong. So 7.5 yards a carry, you did something right. 49 points for Oregon, by the way, 75.9 PFF grade. So I'll take that. Xavier Truss, another Georgia guy. I know we're getting a little sick of the Georgia guys, but he allowed 1 pressure. And it was a little bit of a bad game for the Georgia offense, but 69.7 PFF grade, credible stuff. And final guy would be a new one. I don't think I've talked about this guy yet. Armand Membo, Missouri, the Tigers. No pressures allowed, 176 rushing yards, 4.1 yards a carry, 27 points scored by Missouri, 80.3 PFF grade. So, that is the rundown of the offense. As you can see, we're moving on to the defense in the next video that I do. We'll be putting that up in a couple of hours in all likelihood. Keep an eye out for it. And then we're moving on. So let me know what you think. Let me know if anything else stands out to you with these guys. Let me know if there's some player that you think is maybe slipping through, somebody you're not into, somebody you're not feeling. Yeah, that's what I got for this week, guys. So let me know what the score is. And yeah, see you guys in a couple of hours. Go Hawks.